out and collect everybody's phone. So now it's just your word against a billionaire. You're gonna lose. Read this right there from that young man.
Yeah, this is a real issue. And I think Diddy's lawyers are right when you're talking about somebody who's not, supposed to not be able to be accessed in this way.
And that's super scary. If he, in fact, woke up with a knife to his throat, I mean, that's freaking.
You know that feeling when you wake up in the middle of the night and instantly know something's wrong? That cold sweat, that prickle on the back of your neck, like the air itself is holding its breath? Now imagine that feeling isn't a dream, but the sound of a homemade blade scraping across concrete, inching closer to your cell, carried not by a random inmate, but by a messenger with a message. We haven't forgotten Quad Studios. That's the reality for Sean Diddy Combs right now, locked inside Brooklyn's most notorious jail. A place where the walls don't just hold inmates, they hold memories. Tupac bleeding out in that lobby after being shot 5 times. Biggie slumped in his car 6 months later in LA, still warm. The men sharing that cell block weren't just alive when it happened, they were raised on those stories, so when that shiv pressed against Diddy's throat in the dead of night, it wasn't just a prison incident, it felt like a receipt. An overdue bill tied to a debt lingering since 1994. And the wildest part is the world thinks Diddy's biggest problem is his trafficking conviction, when to people who know this history, that's just the appetizer. The main course is the 2 deaths hip-hop never got justice for, and in Brooklyn, debts like that.
We haven't seen the indictments yet. There's been some time lag. I suppose it will take some time to go through all the forensic, evidence.
The footage 50 Cent just leaked, the one where Diddy looks like he's seen a ghost, isn't some random prison clip. It's a man who knows exactly why a knife was at his throat, his eyes darting, shoulders hunched, voice reportedly cracking as he begged to be transferred to Jersey, not out of fear but recognition. This is the same Diddy who once ruled New York, flew on private jets with Combs Air placemats, and moved like he owned the city, now waking up on a steel slab in an 8x10 cell, staring at cinderblock walls, surrounded by men raised on the East Coast-West Coast feud, men who remember what happened at Quad Studios in '94. According to Chirac Finney, the message was clear: next time you won't be so lucky. And that wasn't prison tough talk, it was a warning. Because the moment that blade touched his throat and that footage hit the internet, this stopped being about trafficking charges and became about survival. In MDC Brooklyn, a place so brutal they call it hell on earth, where money didn't save R. Kelly or Ghislaine Maxwell, a shiv isn't just an attack, it's a statement, a verdict.
That footage ended up going to 50 Cent and his production company, and it's kind of the centerpiece.
Sold to them.
Yes, was the centerpiece of the documentary. So watch this particular scene, because this is where a lot of people feel Diddy really screwed over someone that he should be very, very...
Now let's talk about that 50 Cent leak, because this is where everything really starts to unravel. The footage shows Diddy looking like a man who's just realized his past isn't catching up to him. It's hunting him, and the timing couldn't be more precise. While the public was distracted by the criminal trial, Cassie Ventura's testimony, the freak-off parties, and luxury jets quietly being shuffled to offshore shell companies, something darker was surfacing behind the scenes. Gene Deal, a longtime figure in Diddy's inner circle, dropped a revelation that's still rippling through hip-hop. Diddy wasn't just near Quad Studios the night Tupac Shakur was shot. He was allegedly there to watch. November 30th, 1994, Shakur arrives to record a verse and instead is robbed, shot 5 times, and left bleeding in the lobby. And according to Deal, Diddy wasn't just in the building, he was in Jimmy Henchman's office when the plan went down. Tupac owed money. Henchman...
Look at how many people he affected negatively. That was his trade-off to gain what he had. His former bodyguard, Gene Deal, said he seen him doing a ritual where they dove. What is that? And I feel like it's being overlooked because they see him doing the dance moves with the baggy clothes. Some of the ladies in his videos were trans.
Fast forward to Vegas in 1996. Tupac Shakur is riding in a white Cadillac after leaving the MGM when shots ring out, and 6 days later he's gone. A case that stayed cold for decades until 2023, when Keefe D., alleged Southside figure and alleged trigger man, was arrested and began making explosive claims that Diddy ordered the hit, enraged by Tupac's dices, with a supposed $1 million bounty placed on both Tupac and Suge Knight. According to those same claims, another name from that era, Eric Von Zip, allegedly flashed a check, $1 million, cashable and traceable, because, as Gene Deal puts it, paper trails don't fade and neither do street memories. And this is where the dots start connecting. Diddy is in prison, Keefe D is in custody, and investigators reportedly have statements on record, including a 2008 interview and a 2009.
We're in the unit that was one floor above mine, so in terms of like the setting, it's a fairly decent chance that the room I'm describing is similar to where Diddy is. Yeah.
And here's the real kicker. Diddy has been trying to get out, begging, even starting with a personal letter to Donald Trump asking for a pardon, a request Trump reportedly mocked publicly. But Diddy wasn't joking, because when you're staring down years inside MDC Brooklyn, a place where inmates get stabbed in broad daylight, the showers fail, the lights go out for days, and survival isn't guaranteed, you'll do anything, including selling off a $30 million private jet, the same one he used to flee to Antigua during federal raids, now quietly registered in San Marino like he's hiding more than just money. While headlines paint him as a fallen mogul and focus on failed pardon attempts, the real story is unfolding in the shadows, because MDC Brooklyn isn't just a jail, it's a pressure cooker, and Diddy is the main ingredient. The knife at his throat wasn't just intimidation, it was a reminder that Brooklyn has...
Well, I mean, inmates have procedures all the time. I mean, you have folks there with cancer, you have folks there with, serious other chronic diseases, and sometimes it does require individuals to have surgery even while they're on pretrial.
And here's the wild part. The feds may be listening because none of this adds up unless they're waiting for something. Why keep Diddy locked up if he's not a flight risk? Deny him bail despite a $48 million Miami mansion, and hold him in a facility where he's clearly in danger, unless the pressure is the point. Unless they're letting the threats mount, the ghosts resurface, and the fear build until he breaks, until he starts talking and gives them what they really want. A link to Keefe D, a thread that leads back to Tupac Shakur's murder, a confession squeezed out by survival. This isn't really about adult services, insiders claim. It's about power, blood, and two rap legends who died in a storm of bullets, with a third man always hovering in the background of studios, headlines, and rumors, now sitting in a cell with a target on his back as the walls close in. And what isn't being said publicly, according to those same sources, is that the U.S. Attorney's Office may be quietly stacking a far darker case, one that has nothing to do with freak-off parties and everything to do with Vegas in 1996, where Keefe D, alleged triggerman, has claimed in past interviews that Diddy wanted Tupac and Suge Knight eliminated, even alleging $1 million offer. Officially, law enforcement maintains Diddy was never a suspect in Tupac's case. But never a suspect doesn't mean never a person of interest. And in a case this cold and this layered, that thin gap is often where the truth hides.
It's probably leaning towards guilt. Now, on the racketeering, I agree with you that the predicate acts may be found, but that's not all they need. There's an ultimate question. The first question on the jury verdict form is, do you find him guilty or not guilty of racketeering? Before you even get to the predicate acts, which you only get to if you find guilt, they could just be hung up on that question and say, this guy's not Tony Soprano. I am not convinced that I even want to find guilt.
Here's the thing about Diddy's current legal battles, the trafficking appeals, the pardon letters to Trump, the frantic sell-offs of jets and mansions. They don't matter in the long run, because while the public is distracted by the tabloid spectacle, the real action is happening quietly in the background. Keefe D's trial may be delayed, but according to sources close to the investigation, the feds aren't waiting, they're listening, treating Diddy's prison stint not as punishment but as leverage. When you're locked in a cell with a target on your back, surrounded by men whispering about Quad Studios and Vegas 96, survival becomes currency, and that's when people start talking. That's why insiders claim he's being kept isolated, vulnerable, and desperate, because the moment he starts bargaining for his life, offering up a name, a link, or a confession, the real case begins. The charges he's already facing are just the appetizer. The main course, some believe, is a potential RICO case built around 2 deaths and a paper trail that allegedly points back to Bad Boy records. And this isn't just about Tupac. Federal attention is reportedly circling Biggie as well, raising the same questions Kirk Burrow has asked for years. Why was Biggie pushed to go to LA despite his fears? Why were his instincts overruled? And why, according to Gene Deal, was extra security allegedly refused for Biggie's convoy while Diddy's own...
With the series, with the film?
I mean, I think the intention is to give a more full-bodied experience to what happened, from the people that agreed to sit down and to participate. And I feel like The film asks a lot of questions, you know, maybe more questions are asked than answers given.
And the feds are clearly connecting the dots, because what we know is this. Diddy's legal team has fought relentlessly to get him out of MDC Brooklyn, calling the conditions inhumane, dangerous, and a violation of his rights. Yet judges have refused to budge. And why would they, when dealing with someone who spent decades insulated by lawyers, fixers, and systems designed to make problems disappear? The only way to apply real pressure is to place him somewhere he can't control. Brooklyn's special housing unit, where the lights flicker, the showers fail, and the inmates aren't just criminals but living reminders of unresolved history, witnesses to stories the streets never forgot. The longer he stays, the tighter the vice becomes, because Diddy isn't just fighting for freedom anymore, he's fighting for survival. And when or if he walks out, there are only two futures waiting. One where he serves his time in silence and emerges stripped of power.
About this very public, long-standing feud that you've had with Sean Combs. So what brought you to this project?
Well, you know, I just want to make really hit television. I like the idea of it being exciting, and I picked this project and started working on it about 5 months before I found Alex. And I know that she has the artistic integrity that it would take to make it.
But here's the part that should make everyone pause, because if the feds really are building a case, if they're using Diddy's prison time to pressure him into cracking, then this story isn't ultimately about his guilt or innocence. It's about justice. Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls' cases have been cold for decades, with families, fans, and an entire culture waiting for answers that never came. And if Diddy knows something, if he was involved, or if he's been holding the missing pieces all along, then this moment could finally be about closure rather than punishment. Maybe this isn't just the end of one man's power, but the beginning of long overdue accountability for two legends who never got the justice they deserved. So this is where we leave it for now, because the truth is still out there, and the next move, whether it's a confession, a conviction, or a cover-up, is coming. One thing is certain. Diddy isn't sleeping easy tonight, and neither should anyone who's been paying attention, because when the lights go out in Brooklyn, that's usually when the real stories start to surface.